On the Fox News show Outnumbered, they had a conversation about healthcare, and simply put, none of them know what they're talking about. And this segment actually got me angry because spreading this kind of false information is actually dangerous.
Ultimately, you can't have all-you-can-eat health care. That something's got to give. The big question, and how long it takes for us to come to this realization, remains to be seen. But ultimately, the question is, who's going to decide what is an elective surgery? What is optional? Who gets to make that decision? I expect, because the Medicare Trust Fund, and that is single payer, because that will go broke in 2030 is the new date, a little bit longer than previously thought. That the focus will be on Medicare first, and there will be so much outrage. He's not off base by saying that.
Yeah, and who are the ones who decides who lives and who dies? Who gets the life-extending treatment?
What's scary.
And who has to go broke paying for it?
That's what's scary. I don't want to leave that at anybody's hands to decide what surgery I get to get.
Yeah, we saw what happened in the VA hospital, right?
Yes.
That's
disturbing.
exactly what was happening. They were deciding who's going to get an appointment and who's not. And I will say he's not the most influential man because he's the most well-liked. It's because his name was searched when you searched Google, or the number of articles when his name popped up. That's why he got number one on that list.
He got to shut his mouth, though. He's got loose lips, and he's letting out all the secrets.
Oh, I want him to keep talking.
Oh, no, I don't.
More.
I don't.
I mean, this thing was called the Affordable Care Act, and he's essentially coming out and saying that while Obama was trying to sell this to people as something that was going to bring costs down, the only way they could do that was by denying treatment. Remember when Republicans were talking about death panels with this independent payment advisory board?
And we're derided
and we're laughed. Yes, Sarah Palin, they were laughing at her. That's exactly what's going to happen because you can't pay for everything, and they structured a system that's not cost effective.
So how many years later, they've now resurrected again the death panels lie? You know, this got the lie of the year not too long ago, right? And they're still bringing it up. Now, of course, they'll fire back and say, yeah, well, Obama got the lie of the year also when Obama said if you like your health care, you could keep it. Yeah, and that was a bad idea to give him the lie of the year because it was actually a good lie. And what I mean by that is, yeah, people couldn't keep their health care. But what they don't tell you is the second part of it. You can pay less money and get better care. So everybody who's complaining, I can't keep my health care plan, Obama lied. They're not telling you that now they can pay less and get better care. So, but look, it's dangerous to resurrect lines like, you know, there are death panels. Because what you're doing is you're preaching to an audience that isn't that bright to begin with. And then I know I've experienced it in my own personal life. Somebody close to me who I won't name, they're basically like, you know, I'm going to continue to pay more for my health care under COBRA, which is what you can get when you leave a job, and then it's a pseudo-government program, and the employer pays for it too, and it works in a weird way, but I'm going to continue to use that and pay like $500 a month for healthcare instead of going to the exchanges and paying less under Obamacare. Like, I don't want to use it. I don't want to use it because I'm afraid of, like, the death panels and stuff. So there are people who are actively going without any healthcare right now because they're afraid of the fake death panels that you guys made up. And that's a dangerous thing. You're substantively affecting people's lives in a negative way. And they don't even realize. They don't even realize that what they're doing is very detrimental and it's borderline immoral. I mean, what they're doing is just terrible. Now, let me also correct a bunch of the other garbage that was just all over the place there. They say, well, I don't want the government deciding what surgery I can have. Oh, my God. You idiots. No, the system that is bad is the system we have right now where the private insurance companies determine who's going to live and die. These guys love screaming about government death panels which don't exist, but the death panels that do exist, mum's the word. The real death panels in America are the private insurance companies because the way they make money is to deny care. They had entire boards geared towards what's called rescission. Before Obamacare, what is rescission? Rescission is the idea that a company can go back and nullify a contract with you based off any little thing that they find. So like, let's say you don't put your middle initial on a contract for your health insurance and you get cancer and you need them to pay out on a claim. They could just go back and say, look, on this form you didn't put your middle initial, on this one you did. Therefore, we nullify the contract through the process of rescission. We're not paying out for your claim on your cancer treatment and you need to pay out of pocket. This used to happen. This happened all the time. There were entire departments put towards rescission. And understand, when there's a profit motive there, it's particularly egregious, because what you're saying is deny as much care as possible because we need to pad the bottom line with profit because our CEO or our CFO needs to buy another yacht or needs to buy another mansion in the Hamptons. Any healthcare system with a profit motive is a terrible healthcare system. Some things, the profit motive should be off the table, like the military, by the way, like the prison systems, by the way, like the healthcare systems. Then also, they say, well, the VA is a good example of this. That's what happens when you have healthcare run by the government. The VA, there were people who were dying because they were on waiting lists. They don't tell you the second part of that. Because the Republicans blocked the creation and the funding of 27 new VA clinics. It's their fault. It's the fault of the Republicans who didn't give a shit about our veterans because they cared more about the abstract idea of saving money and being fiscally responsible. And then, by the way, the next day they turn around and sign a blank check over to create the F-35 too, which doesn't even fly. So there's a blank check for war spending, there's the blank check for Wall Street, but when it comes to new VA clinics, so that our brave young men and women don't die, they say, no, we're not going to give you any money. God, it's frustrating. The reason why the VA is in trouble is because of Republicans. They choke the program and starve it of funding, and then they turn around and say, see, government programs don't work. Because of you! If you get the fuck out of the way, it'll work just fine. Now, they also say a lie that we've heard time and time. Well, Medicare is going to go broke by like 2030. Notice they've been saying this since like the 1960s, and they always end up pushing the date further back, right? In the 1960s, it was, by the 1990s, Medicare is going to go broke. It didn't. And then, 1990s, they go, by 2010, totally going to go broke. It didn't. Every time they go back and check it, there's always a window where it's like, well, 40 years from now, 30 years from now, maybe something might happen, kind of. And by the way, when they say it's going to go broke, even according to the projections, that's not true, because the projections say it's, fully funded until 2030 or 2040, and then it pays out 80% of its money. It's not going from paying out 100% to paying zero. It's going from 100% to 80%. And by the way, all you need to do is minor fixes to the system. It's the same for Social Security in order to make it solvent forever. So that's another falsehood. And then finally, they say at the beginning, well, you can't have all-you-can-eat health care. And that's the main difference and the main disagreement here between progressives and conservatives in America. Because honestly, all that is ignorant babble from people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about on the right. Because of course you could have all-you-can-eat health care. Of course you can. You want to know how I know that? Every other modern nation does. That's it. End of conversation. Look at Australia, look at Canada, look at Britain, look at Norway, look at Denmark, look at Iceland, look at Sweden. And then every other bullshit comeback that they have for you is always not true. So they go, well, they're like, you have to wait for stuff in like Canada. What do they tell you? The only times you have to wait is when it's for an elective procedure. For any life-saving procedure you definitely need soon, you don't have to wait for it. That's not true at all. But you don't want to know where you do wait and where oftentimes you die? America. 45,000 people died every year in America because they didn't have access to basic health care. That number is 0 in Canada, but somehow dunce-head conservatives in America go, I'm so scared of the Canadian healthcare system, I might die waiting over there. Look at the numbers here and look at the numbers there. You're empirically way more likely to die here for that reason. They don't care about rationality. They don't care about facts. They don't care about the empirical data. Everything is argument from emotion. The bottom line is all of that money that we waste, 57% of discretionary spending, going to the military, $80 billion a year plus going in subsidies to the big banks. all the pork barrel projects that we waste money on, all of that money that we're spending over there, we don't even need to raise taxes. We could just reallocate that money, take a chunk of it, put it towards the national healthcare system, and boom, problem solved.